Today I learned something very valuable. For many years I used to think I knew a little bit about will and willpower. And I believe this because I'd read this book here. The Act of Will by Dr. Roberto Assagioli. Many times, right back to 1985, The Act of Will. And I'd read it 7 times, the last time completing it in 2015. Today, I was reading through this book, Edgar Cayce's Mysteries on the Mind, subtitle or subwritten by Henry Reed under the editorialship of Charles Thomas Cayce. Henry Reed. Here's the difference. Let me just read the explanation from Assagioli's book, the preface, the very first paragraph. Everyone can have or has had the existential experience of willing, but often without full realization or clear understanding. This book has been written as an introduction and a guide to such experience, and as a training manual. It is intended to be a tool for the exploration, development, and utilization of the will. It considers not only how the will usually operates, but how it can operate. I won't go further than that, other than to say, when we think of will, we think of willpower, somebody who's strong-willed. We also know that no matter how strong the will is, imagination is stronger. Let me give you an example. If you put a plank on the floor, this plank might be, say, 20 feet long by 2 feet wide, solid, 2 inches thick, immovable, won't flex. You put it on the ground and you say to somebody, walk along that plank. Piece of cake. They get on it, walk along it, get off the other end. Take that same plank and put it between 2 buildings 50 feet above the ground and ask the person to do the same thing. Most people would not walk across the plank. Why? Because their imagination that they might fall off and get killed or seriously injured is stronger than their willpower. And that's the willpower most of us think about, how we can will ourselves to do something against our will. But there is another will, a deeper will. And in this book it says, along the lines of, when you're willing to say, I'll do this, I'm willing to do this no matter what it takes. I'm willing to do this no matter what it takes. That puts a different slant on it. You're now coming from your real will, not the will of the conscious mind, but the will of the deep unconscious mind, that part of you which is linked to the all. Once we can start coming from that part of our will, the deep will, the will from the heart, the will that our soul really wants, not what our ego wants, not the mind's desires, but the heart's desires. Once we start coming from that part, that will, then we start to move. And how does it come about? By willingness to surrender. by willingness to surrender our strong will, our conscious will of the wants and desires we want, and going with a willingness to accept that inside of us are desires that our soul knows that we need to advance as human beings. So there's the difference between the mind's will and the heart's will. I hope you got something out of this, and I hope to myself that I've clarified a little bit to myself.